Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at a first submission by Thomas of his horse Hombredon. Hombredon is a 7-year-old PRE horse, which basically means a Spanish sport horse. And I want to say right from the very beginning here what exemplary work he is doing here. It's just so great when I turn on one of these videos and I see this kind of work. Right off the bat, he's in a just almost perfect working walk here, really regular in 4-beat, beautifully over his back. And look how forward and stretched the neck is. This is absolutely wonderful work. This is just exactly right. Now, of course, the detractors of this style would say, oh, look how wide he's riding with his hands. But remember, that means nothing at all. This is just work that we do when we first get the horses stretching. Then, of course, we start riding with our hands in a more normal equitation position. So what a wonderful job this horse is really swinging through the back, everything. This is an excellent working walk. So what a great job you've done with this one. Look how beautifully he's over his back, how consistent the strides are. Stepping forward, anytime he changes the bend, there's no change. He doesn't bring his head up. And they said in their email this, he's only been doing this for about a month. So if this is a month's work, you've done a wonderful job and just absolutely exemplary riding. I hope everybody watches this one. And a perfect example of also how all horses need this. You know, so many people who have these PRE horses have this idea that they can start with their heads up in the air, and nothing could be further from the truth. Just like Lusitanos and Frisians and these kind of horses that have a higher neck set, that doesn't mean their backs are strong. In fact, usually with these kind of horses, it takes even a little more time. Not with this type of horse, but with the Frisians and these, because they're so big. Bigger the horse is, actually the weaker the horse's back is, oddly enough. It isn't kind of what people think, and that, a lot of overweight people buy very big horses, these big Clydesdales and things like this, thinking that they're going to carry them, but they're very long in the back, and these horses weren't intended to be ridden. So they collapse in their back. Almost every Frisian I see these days is completely sway-backed, and that's for that exact reason. So anyway, you're doing a wonderful job here, and this horse is never going to be sway-backed the way you're riding him. This is just perfect, the way he's stretching down into the contact. Absolutely excellent work. Beautiful walk. Look how he's not coming behind the vertical. He's stretching forward and down into the contact. Your contact with the horse and your use of your legs is just absolutely excellent. I love how your back is just swinging along with him. And the horse looks very, very happy in the work. Starting in a trot, that was lovely. He didn't hardly even move his head. So once again, for a month of working on this, from a horse they described as being very head straight up in the air when they started a month ago, this is absolutely fantastic work. Now you are on the wrong diagonal in this, just to point that out. The horse is going really well. And really it doesn't matter that you rise to the outside diagonal. In Sweden they rise to the inside diagonal. It matters that you do it consistently, really, is the only thing that really matters, ultimately. But you're still on the wrong rising diagonal there. That is, you should be rising as the outside foreleg comes up and forward. Unless you're Swedish, in which case you can continue to rise on the inside. But then, once again, the point is that it just needs to be consistent. It doesn't matter. But you just don't want to rise on the same diagonal all the time. But this is absolutely beautiful work, perfect stretching. I could not ask for anything more than this. This horse is well on his way to becoming an absolutely lovely animal. And we do a lot of work down in Mexico, and we work with quite a few of these PRE horses, and they're just so lovely. I just wish more people, and I think that will happen now that they've straightened the gaits out. The old Andalusians usually, winged and paddled and things like that. But they've straightened the legs out, so they're much more of a traditional just sport horse. In fact, the Lusitanos, that was the difference between the breeds. Lusitanos always had better gaits in terms of straightness in the legs. The Portuguese just bred for more correctness that way, and I think the Spanish bred for a little more flash in their horses. But now everybody's working on the same thing. But what a great horse, and I'd say these horses are so beautifully minded. See, we often go down to Mexico where there's we've gone to a county fair there where there were 10 stallions just tied in a line next to each other. This is absolutely a perfect rhythm for this horse. There's just not a thing wrong with this. how beautifully you're able to change the rein across the diagonal. And have only done this for a month and have this horse going like this, you've done a wonderful job. Excellent riding. I love how you're just maintaining contact. That's the hardest thing for people to get, is just in the beginning of learning this, is just to be able to keep a consistent contact. And of course, that's why we do the wide hand technique. Because when we never know with the young ones when they're going to pop up, and this way we can just get them used to having that soft feeling in the mouth instead of pulling them. Absolutely wonderful changes of bend. This is a perfect rhythm for this horse. I don't see a single thing wrong with this. Absolutely exemplary work. Look how beautifully he's able to change the bend through the circles. And I love how you brought him back to the walk. You took your time and you didn't sit in the saddle till the horse came back to the walk, and then you had a very smooth transition. He kept coming forward. So many dressage riders today, got into that old style thing where they're using their seats almost like a Western rider doing a sliding stop. So they're jamming the horse up in the back all the time. It's never what we want to do. We never want to jam our seat down into the horse or push heavily against the seat, as we see so many people doing. The seat should just follow or lightly restrain, or it can just simply release more. But we don't want to be pushing on the back of the horse or pushing down and holding, as you say, once again, like a sliding stop. But Thomas is doing a wonderful job here. His position is absolutely very excellent. Leg is hanging underneath his body. His contact is excellent. And I notice how he's getting stretching. Notice his hands are coming closer together. That's exactly what I want to have happen. Till we get to the point where they're back in the position that we want them in, the more equitation position as we think of. But how deep and round this stretch is, and how rhythmic the horse is, completely over his back. Absolutely wonderful. Excellent rhythm. And once again, excellent how you're just keeping it to just circles. That's about the size he can do, is about a 20-meter circle, looks like you're doing there. I'm not sure if you get to them yet, but we want to start doing some leg yields now. So the next things you would be wanting to add to what you're doing here is just leg yielding from the center line to the outside. Once you can do your leg yields from the inside to the outside, then you can start going from the outside to the inside. But this is an excellent trot. Looks like you opened him up just a little bit there, and that's a wonderful thing. Transitions within the gaits. So before we ask for too many perfect transitions between the gaits, we want to be sure the horse can just simply do little transitions within the gait. That is simply speeding up and lengthening the stride a little bit, and then just coming smoothly back as you're doing here. Now this is absolutely a perfect workout for this horse. Everyone just needs to know that, so much of horse training is just learning to have the patience to wait. And once you've done this with a few horses and you realize, how they develop, it takes all the frustration out of riding horses. I see so many angry people riding horses, especially when I go to dressage shows, sadly enough, where we're supposed to be working on connection with our horses and harmony, and we just see so much disharmony in the show ring. Once again, another beautiful transition back down, like how you took your time getting your seat in the saddle. He didn't stop moving at any time. That was done exactly right. Once again, a good working walk here. So once from that stretch, once you can get a horse stretching the way Thomas is doing here, then it's simply a matter of each day just seeing how high you can bring the neck up, and as he is doing here so wonderfully, not shortening the horse back in the neck. That is not pulling the neck back up and back into the body. We don't want the horse to turtle its neck into us. We want it to stay out long. As the horse develops its top line and develops a more uphill stance through his body, as the withers move up through the shoulders from doing this kind of work, when horses get developed correctly, then they have this beautiful uphill appearance. But we're never really shortening the neck back into the body, as we see people doing, compressing horses in the neck. All that does is stop the horse from being able to move correctly. Once again, this is a wonderful walk here. Excellent working walk for this horse. Almost perfect rhythm. And look how the top line muscles of this horse are just lit up. How even his step is. So if you can do this, my friend Thomas, you can do anything else on the back of a horse. So, folks, for all of you to realize that correctly trained horses are not difficult to ride. A correctly trained Grand Prix horse was easier to ride than any other if it's been correctly trained, because they're not overreactive to everything. And we see these horses. So many people come to me. 2 people right now that came to me. They bought young horses that they could ride when they bought them, and within 3 weeks they couldn't ride them because the trainer had them so crazy. We see this all the time, people being sidelined. It takes a lot of skill to ride badly, is what I say. That is, a lot of being able to stick to it, and that sort of thing. And that's the sad thing. So the rest of the people who don't ride, maybe don't have that much experience, they think this is something difficult because the trainers have made the horses so hard to hold against their hands and these sort of things. But that's not what a correctly trained horse is. A correctly trained horse at Grand Prix, a beginner can get on, and most, if they're correctly trained, they will go around and do what they can do, but they're not going to take off like lunatics because you touch them with their legs, because they themselves have learned a more soft way of approaching humans themselves, instead of thinking there's something to be afraid of. And that's also what happens when we have riders who over-pressurize horses. The horses are actually afraid of the riders. So then you could put a beginner on, who isn't quick enough to stay with it. Look how beautiful this walk is. And, the horses just get crazy with them. As soon as they grip a little bit or with their legs, they're taking off with them. That's not a correctly trained horse. But this one is going to be the way you're doing that. Absolutely wonderful walk down through. And once again, that's just about how you'd like that transition to be, about like that, taking it easy with him. Just letting him move up slowly, but for a month or so, or a month and a half, as you said, of work with this horse, you've done a wonderful job. I hope you're training lots of horses there. I don't know much about these riders, and I hope that when you watch these yourself, that you'll put in the comments a little bit more about where you are and that sort of thing. And who knows? I mean, my idea with all these videos is to get people helping each other around the world. That the trouble when I started to learn this, you couldn't even find a video because it didn't exist. When I was a kid, I'm 61 years old and started riding dressage when I was in my teens. So it was a very new sport, and it wasn't until I traveled to Portugal and rode with Mr. Oliveira that the light bulb clicked off. This is absolutely wonderful work here, but if we can get a group of people, as we're starting to do here, commenting on each other's rides and supporting each other in this work, that's my goal. Once again, you see how easy this is. So if you can do this with this horse, there's no reason you can't take it to Grand Prix. If you just take your time and let it develop, which is mostly the skill that it takes to train horses, having the patience to wait for them instead of thinking you can force horses to do things. You can't force them to do anything that has any real value, and you put your life usually at risk by doing it when you do. So almost every rider I've ever known in my life who spent a lot of time, beating up horses and this kind of thing, they eventually get hurt. They finally push the envelope too close and one flips over and crushes every bone in their body. I've seen it happen many, many times. So I think that's a little karmic, so to speak. So, it's kind of like do unto others. And that's what we want to do to our horses, We don't want to force them to do things and beat them into doing things. We want them to be partners in this work. It's a lot more fun. Like, this is a real partnership already taking place here. Look how smooth this is. The rider is never asking the horse to do things that it physically can't do, so it doesn't resist. It's very simple, folks. If you're fighting with your horses, or your trainers are fighting with your horses, there's something seriously wrong with what's going on there. And it's usually the same thing. People are asking for the horses to do more than they can physically do, so the horses revolt. But most horses can become very calm, quiet, willing participants if you're willing to take the time. And I've worked some that many other people had given up on, and they all became wonderful mounts, safe and sound. So again, just exemplary stretching. I could watch this all day long. I feel like just putting this one to music and putting it back on. And just watch this. Beautiful downwards transition once again. Look how his seat just came softly back in the saddle. The horse never missed a beat, just stepped right into the walk. Wonderful work. And everyone watching this, look how quiet this rider's legs are. He's never kicking on the horse. His leg is hanging directly under his hip. Quiet, supple contact. One of the hardest things to learn, and what I realized studying with Mr. Oliveira, I thought I was had a pretty quiet seat, and until I got on some of his horses and realized that my legs were very busy. Horses are as sensitive as you are. So if you're an insensitive person, you'll probably be kicking the hell out of your horses. But if you're a sensitive person, they can go, as one trainer used to say, the horse should move in the wind of the boot, so to speak. That your legs should be so lightly on the side of the horse, that there's even just the slightest bit of air between the two of you. And that's really how this rider looks. Really wonderful technique there with the hands of just keeping them wide, letting this young horse maintain contact. And once again, keeping it to simple things. Now in your next video, what I'd love to see you do is start adding some leg yields and shoulder ins to this. So in your next video that you send, I'd love to see some leg yields from the center line to the outside, from the outside to the inside, once you can do those. And then you can begin to do a little shoulder four. Shoulder four, I mean, is just a shoulder in, without too much bend. Lovely lengthening there. Transitions within the gaits, absolutely excellent. So in your next video, I'd love to start seeing some lateral work. So leg yields from the center line, from the outside, and then some shoulder four coming down the long side, just bringing them inside. Remember the old difference between a shoulder four is really just more of a leg yield, but actually this horse is already bending and looking so supple, I think it'll probably be a shoulder in. So once again, that's the difference between a shoulder in and a shoulder four, is that we're looking for the horse to be bent the entire length of its body in the shoulder in. Beautiful rhythm here. Look how this horse is starting to float over the ground. Lovely little lengthening you did there. You saw a little more thrust beginning to happen. That is the degree to which the horse pushes off the ground. Another nice lengthening, very nice. Now we can see that the lengthening is kind of flat, and that's how it should be at this level. The horse hasn't developed a whole lot of thrust yet, but really that was absolutely very, very, very nice. And how he doesn't really speed up, he's actually lengthening his stride. So again, another nice lengthening there. Very good. Excellent. Now there's very little change in the horse's rhythm. That's what we're looking for. He just lengthened right out without any change in the rhythm. The footfalls are staying the same rhythm. A good rider has to be like a musician. You have to have a metronome in your head. It just clocks it off. Every step. Being aware of that rhythm is the most important thing, because the rhythm tells us whether or not the exercises we're doing are having a correct effect. If the horse loses rhythm, we know the exercise is losing the gymnastic quality. So it's, other than from getting here to there, it doesn't have a lot of point. Beautiful lengthening right there. Look how the horse swings through behind. And that's just the way you'd want to keep this horse at this level. Long through the neck, and letting him lengthen the neck even a little bit more as you go into those lengthenings. And once again, I love how he's just coming back to the stretch again. And now a little sitting trot. Excellent work here. Excellent work. Once again, there was no change in the rhythm in the sitting trot. That's just exactly what we want to see. Just like that. Really well done. Perfect rhythm. I love how he's able to change the bend, even the sitting trot. And that was about right. You wouldn't want to do too much more than that. That was about the right length of sitting trot for him. Thomas, this was absolutely exemplary work. I hope everyone watches your tape, because this is absolutely beautiful. For to have only had this horse for a month and a half, you've just done a wonderful, wonderful job with him. Look at how he comes back to finish in a beautiful stretching walk. Now, as a perfect example there, you can see his head got a little high. You can see how his back legs kind of fell out a little bit. He lost that rhythm for just a moment. So that's maybe getting a little bit too high up for him there. But we want to try that every day. That's getting better. Just don't shorten the neck any more than that. Good. It's a good reverse position, shoulder in. Keep him long in the neck like that. But you see it's kind of losing rhythm. That's a little hard for him. I would rather see you do in your next exercise. Once again, I want to see the leg yields from the center line, so he keeps the rhythm a little better. So to me, that got a little bit high in the neck, but you did just the right thing. You tried it, and then you just come back. That's all right. In the immortal words of Capitaine Boudin, ask for a lot, be satisfied with a little, and reward often. And if you stick to those things, your horses will love you, and they will continue to improve. Again, same thing this way. And once again, you see how his head comes up. He gets a little busier in his mouth, and this walk slows down a little bit. So try to do this lateral work in a longer neck, which is why we want to start with the leg yield. See, this is getting a little too slow. You see how the hind legs are starting to look like they're coming out of mud there. So that's a little bit too difficult for him. Let's go back and just in your next video and just start with some leg yields from the center line to the outs, from the inside to the outside. And then once you can do those inside to outside, and then start doing just your shoulder 4, and then do the reverse position. So that should be the order of those exercises. But once again, you tried it, and look how you just come right back to the stretch. And that's it all the time. You know, so I'm not telling you not to try things. Try them, but recognize when they go right and when they don't go so right. So when they lose the rhythm and the horse drops his back and he starts to get a little testy in the mouth there, you know, in the bridle, you know, that was a little too hard for him. So we need to go back to a little simpler version of what we're doing there. And that is exactly what you did, and that's exactly the right thing. So a wonderful ride by what looks like to be a very sensitive rider who really has a good concept of what he's doing, good use of the aids. There wasn't a single thing I didn't like about this. Same thing here. See how the walk is getting too short? So same thing here. This is just a little too difficult at this level. So once again, just back to the leg yields from the center line first before you go to those more difficult exercises of the reverse position shoulder in. But you did just the right thing. You tried it and you came right back to the stretch again. Exactly what you should do. Oh, what a beautiful stretch all the way down. And back to the walk again. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Great job. Look forward to seeing your next submission.